Japan is arming up. Moscow didn't see it coming. Russia was blindsided by the hammer of the East. Tokyo rolled out a military trump card for Ukraine. The Kremlin erupted in outrage as Japan went even further, eyeing a slice of territory for itself. And Japan is not alone. Sweden is stepping in, delivering advanced, high-impact weapons for destroying the occupiers. Panic is spreading inside Putin's inner circle. Meanwhile, Ukraine is bursting into the European Union. Will they even sideline Orban to make it happen? Behind the scenes, the political earthquake is already underway. At the same time, the empire's economy is cracking while Putin desperately paints the illusion of a perfect superpower. Is this the moment when the dictator is finally left with nothing but broken dreams? Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today with the latest updates. Breaking: Japan is arming up for Ukraine. The country is finally stepping onto the PURL stage, signaling a bold strategic move that shakes the international chessboard, reports a Japanese broadcaster.
The official said Japan would provide funding only for non-lethal defense equipment, possibly including radar systems and bulletproof vests.
Alliance sources add that Tokyo has already briefed several NATO members in Kyiv about its plan. Japan is taking decisive steps toward Ukraine while the political shift at home strengthens its hand. Exit polls show supporters of Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi claimed a resounding victory in parliamentary elections. Analysts hail it as a clear signal that Japan's commitment to backing Ukraine is growing stronger than ever.
Japan has technology and capital. We have experience and a clear vision of a new doctrine of war, plus basic developments. If we add to this Japanese loyalty to Ukraine, Ukrainian intentions to enter Asia, Takaichi's specific attitude towards China, aggressive defense rhetoric, distrust of Trump as an ally, new opportunities open up.
Already one of Ukraine's key partners, Japan has provided over $13 billion in financial and humanitarian aid. With Takaichi's new focus on military cooperation, Ukraine now has a real opportunity to elevate the partnership to an entirely new level. Japan proves to be the perfect partner, aiding Ukraine while standing firm against Russia in territorial disputes. Tokyo reaffirms its push to resolve the Kuril issue amid strained ties with Moscow. Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi emphasized that the dispute over the 4 northern islands remained the single most important point in relations with Russia.
Ishigaki delivered a letter urging progress on the northern territories and the resumption of exchanges, including visits to ancestral graves, underscoring the seriousness of Japan's stance.
In response, Motegi stressed that the issue of the northern territories remained the single most critical point in Japan-Russia relations.
Citata. Relations between Japan and Russia are complex, yet our commitment to resolve the status of the 4 northern islands and conclude a peace treaty remains unwavering.
Sweden is ramping up its support for Ukraine. The Swedish government has announced a new aid package for 2026-2027 totaling 80.5 million SEK, aimed at strengthening healthcare, social services, and the protection of children's rights. Key areas of support include the development of family-oriented social care, elder care initiatives, partnerships between Ukrainian and Swedish hospitals, combating antimicrobial resistance and improving infection control, and harmonizing standards for medicines and medical devices in line with EU requirements.
Today, Sweden is not just a partner of Ukraine, but a vital pillar of our resilience. This support has a practical impact on people's lives, children, families, the elderly, medical staff, and social workers, in a country that has been living under war conditions for the 4th consecutive year.
We also remind that Sweden and Denmark have teamed up to fund the production and transfer of an entire battalion of modern Tridon Mk2 air defense systems, giving Ukraine a fresh and very practical boost against Russian air attacks. At the heart of the system is the legendary 40mm Bofors automatic cannon, thoroughly modernized and now tuned for hunting small, fast, and maneuverable aerial targets. This isn't just classic air defense, it's more like a high-tech air hunter, well-suited for taking down Iranian Shaheds and low-flying Russian cruise missiles alike. The real trick lies in the programmable Bofors 3P ammunition. Instead of needing a perfect direct hit, these shells detonate near the target, showering it with fragments. The result is a lethal cloud that makes life very uncomfortable for drones and missiles. With an engagement range of up to 13 kilometers, Tridon Mk2 can cover large areas and protect key sites without breaking a sweat. Mobility is another strong point. The gun is mounted on a civilian Scania 6x6 truck, meaning it can roll down regular roads and redeploy quickly. Think of it as a rapid response fire brigade for air defense, showing up where it's needed most, just in time. Adding Tridon Mk2 to Ukraine's arsenal neatly fills an important gap. It's cheaper and highly efficient way to deal with mass threats like kamikaze drones, pairing expensive systems such as Patriot and NASAMS for ballistic missiles and aircraft. In short, fewer gold-plated missiles wasted on cheap targets and a much denser shield over Ukrainian infrastructure. Sweden is also preparing in one of its largest aid packages for Ukraine. It will include air defense systems and radars produced by Saab, as well as contributions to Ukraine's defense industrial complex, including additional electronic warfare systems and drones, including deep strike capabilities. Ukraine and Sweden are also working on additional contributions to the PURL initiative to supply Ukrainian soldiers with critically important weapons, particularly systems to counter ballistic missiles. In parallel, the Brave One cluster is discussing the launch of joint Brave Sweden program. In a co-financing format, the program would attract grant funding for defense companies and allow innovative solutions to be tested directly on the front line. At the same time, both sides are working to accelerate the launch of joint production of Ukrainian security solutions on Swedish territory. In addition, aviation-related issues were discussed in detail, including the possible supply of Gripen fighter jets and the transfer of Meteor missiles, key tools for countering aircraft that carry guided aerial bombs. Ukraine and the EU, the European Union, is drafting a plan that could grant Ukraine partial membership as early as 2027, all tied into a peace deal with Russia. Politico reports this based on diplomats from multiple countries, EU officials, and Ukrainian sources. The plan has unofficially been dubbed reverse enlargement. First, a seat at the table, then the reforms needed for full membership. Politico outlines 5 steps. The EU will proactively advance the declaration in Ukraine, has already given informal advice on half of the negotiation clusters, and will provide the remaining guidance at the EU Council meeting in March. The simplified membership works like this. The more reforms Ukraine implements, the more EU rights and responsibilities it unlocks. 3 steps involve Hungary. Ukraine is advised to wait for Prime Minister Viktor Orban to leave. Elections are in April, and his Fidesz party is trailing the main opposition, TISA. If Orban stays, the Trump card comes into play. The US president has repeatedly backed the Hungarian premier. Within the 20-point peace plan framework, this could be decisive for Ukraine. And finally, Article 7 of the EU Treaty, the nuclear option, which allows suspension of member rights if a country seriously violates EU values. It won't be used before April elections to avoid helping Orban, but if Hungary blocks Ukraine's accession, the EU is ready. The Kremlin is building a parallel reality. Putin is desperately trying to maintain the illusion of strength, but everyone sees through it. The Financial Times reports that Russian President Vladimir Putin is actively crafting a narrative meant to convince both the outside world and his own population that the situation in Russia is fully under control. Journalists note that the Kremlin masks real problems with grandiose statements about stability and strategic victories. Analysts point out that Russian authorities continue to push the story of the state's unbreakable nature despite economic pressure, sanctions, and dwindling resources. Essentially, Putin is creating an illusion designed to sustain internal mobilization while deceiving the international community. The FT emphasizes that this strategy doesn't just distort reality, it risks leading to flawed decisions within the system itself. The Kremlin increasingly relies on its own propagandistic worldview, affecting everything from economic forecasts to military and political choices. The report concludes the Russian leadership is determined to project confidence even when all indicators point the other way. Experts say this behavior is a simultaneous attempt to fool both outside observers and themselves. What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video and subscribe to stay informed about the main headlines. See you soon!